In the next few classes, we will see how the commutation rules between position and momentum operators emerge. We start this discussion with by defining infinitesimal translation operator. Okay, so we will see how this infinitesimal translation operator is connected to or how this leads to position and momentum commutation rules. Okay. So let us consider a state of a system which is localized around the point x prime. Okay, so let's consider a three-dimensional physical space. So the position, the state is localized around the three-dimensional point x prime. It is vector x prime, which is a shorthand notation for x prime, y prime, z prime. Three spatial coordinates are required here. Now suppose the state is shifted to another point which is localized around x prime plus dx prime. Okay, so initially the state is localized around the point x prime. Now it is localized, it is shifted to and it is localized around another point x prime plus dx prime, where dx prime is very small. These are two nearby points. Now the operator that produces this infinitesimal translation, this is called infinitesimal translation operator. Let us use a symbol script I. Okay, script I dx prime for this infinitesimal translation operator. Here keep in mind that this vector dx prime is an infinitesimal translation vector. Okay, it's an infinitesimal translation vector. We can say vector dx prime is equal to, remember it's a three-dimensional vector even though we are using this symbol x. Okay, so it's a three-dimensional vector, so it has three components, dx I, dy along j direction, dz along k direction. If I am using Cartesian coordinates, the physical space is three-dimensional physical space, where this dx, dy, dz are scalars. Okay, so this is a three-dimensional translation vector, infinitesimal translation vector, and this is our infinitesimal translation operator. So let us see what happens when this infinitesimal translation operator acts on the state ket x prime. Okay, so consider this let us say some basis state ket x prime. What happens when this infinitesimal translation operator acts on the state? It is transformed into a new state ket x prime plus dx prime. Okay, now we want to see what is the action of this infinitesimal translation operator on a general ket. Let us say consider a ket, general ket alpha. What happens when this infinitesimal translation operator acts on this alpha? So we get I dx prime, infinitesimal translation operator acting on ket alpha. Let's try to understand what is this action. First of all, we know the action of infinitesimal translation operator on a base ket, right, which is the position eigenket. So what we can do is this ket alpha we can expand in terms of position eigenkets. Okay, we know how to do this. So this operator is here, I dx prime is here. Let us expand this ket alpha in terms of position eigenkets. So this is integral d cube x prime. Okay, so remember we are in three-dimensional physical space. So what is the completeness condition here? Ket x prime, vector x prime. This is identity. This is the completeness of the position eigenkets in three-dimensional physical space. Okay, when the motion of the system is in three-dimensional physical space, and your ket alpha is also here. So this infinitesimal translation operator is acting on this ket alpha. What we have done is we have expanded this ket alpha in terms of the position eigenkets. This is a scalar. These are the expansion coefficients. So this operator must be acting on this vector. Okay. So what happens when this infinitesimal translation operator acts on this position eigenket? We know the result. It will become x prime ket x prime plus dx prime. Okay. So we can write this as integral d cube d cube x prime. This will become this ket x prime plus dx prime, and we have this expansion coefficient ket x prime alpha. Okay, so this is the result, we can say, or we can rewrite this in slightly different way. See, this x prime is a dummy index. Okay, we are integrating this over this x prime over the entire space. It's a triple integral, it's a volume integral. So since this x prime is a dummy index, we can vary it. Okay, suppose we shift this x prime by an amount dx prime, so that what happens is this x prime goes to x prime minus dx prime, then here also x prime goes to x prime minus dx prime, so this will cancel. So we can rewrite this as integral d cube x prime, here it becomes x prime minus dx prime alpha. This and this are identical. What we have done is we have merely shifted the origin, that's all. Okay, we have merely shifted. So this is possible, or we have merely shifted the variable, we can say. This is possible because we are integrating over the entire space. Okay, so we are merely changing the dummy index by an amount dx prime. So whether so what we have done from here to here is I have changed x prime by x prime minus x prime to x prime minus dx prime. So here also I have changed it. Okay, so rewriting this in this fashion is to compare this with this one. Okay, see, this is the alpha, ket alpha, before the infinitesimal translation operator acts on it. After the infinitesimal translation operator acts on it, this base ket remains the same. What is done is this expansion coefficients have now changed. Here it is in the product between x prime and alpha. Here that expansion coefficient has been changed. Okay, that is the difference. So this is the action of infinitesimal translation operator on a general ket. Let us consider the properties of the infinitesimal translation operator. First property is that this infinitesimal translation operator I dx prime is a unitary operator. Okay, how do we know this? If consider a vector alpha, a general ket, after the infinitesimal translation operator acts on it, it becomes I dx prime acted on ket alpha. You get a new vector. So what is the action of this infinitesimal translation operator? It changes the base kets by x prime plus dx prime. So if the base kets are shifted by an amount dx prime, this norm of the vector should not change. Okay, norm should not change. So even if this infinitesimal translation takes place, the norm of this vector, this is the new vector, norm of this vector should be same as norm of this vector. So we know that any operation that preserves the norm, that keeps the norm invariant, should be a unitary operation. Okay, let's simply do this. We have discussed this before, but let us show this again. So what is the norm of this vector? It should be equal to norm of this vector, right? What is the norm of this vector? Consider the inner product of this vector with itself. Okay. So what is the inner product of this vector with itself? This ket will become bra vector, and this operator will become its dagger. So we have I dagger dx prime. This is the bra vector side, and inner product with itself is this is the vector, right? So we have I dx prime alpha. This is the inner product of this new vector with itself, and this must be equal to the inner the norm of the old vector. This is the square of the norm of the new vector. It must be equal to the square of the norm of the old vector, and this implies that this term I dagger dx prime I dx prime should be identity. In other words, this infinitesimal translation operator must be a unitary operator. Okay. In general, any operator that preserves the norm must be a unitary operation. Okay. Any operator must be a unitary operator. Yeah, this is one first property, and second property is consider two sequential action of this infinitesimal translation operator. So first on any vector, suppose first this I dx prime is acting, and then we know that operator is acting on a vector from left to right. So suppose the next next one is another infinitesimal translation operator by the amount dx double prime. Okay, so you have back-to-back action of two infinitesimal translation operator, one by an amount dx prime, two by an amount dx double prime. Then this must be equal to the action of an infinitesimal translation operator by an amount dx prime plus dx double prime. Okay, so the effect of the action of two infinitesimal translation operator one after the other, that means base kits are shifted by an amount dx prime, then base kits are further shifted by an amount dx double prime. Then this must be, logically this must be equal to the action of a single infinitesimal operator acting on the base kits by the amount dx prime plus dx double prime. Okay, so this will shift the base kits by dx prime, this will shift the new base kits by dx double prime. So this must be equal to a single infinitesimal translation operator that shifts the base kits by the amount dx prime plus dx double prime. This is very logical. This is the second property. And the third property is an infinitesimal translation operator that shifts the base kits by minus dx prime must be equal to the inverse of the infinitesimal translation operator that shifts the base kit by dx prime. This is also logical. Okay, we know that I dx prime, this is the translation operator that shifts the base kits by dx prime. Then its inverse must be this, the opposite procedure, shifting the base kits by minus dx prime. So this is the third property. And the fourth property, if you take this limit dx prime tends to 0, then this infinitesimal translation operator must be identity operator. Again, this is logical. This operator shifts the base kit by an amount dx prime. So in the limit dx prime tends to 0, this should not make any change to the base kit. That means it must be identity operator. So these are the basic properties of infinitesimal translation operator. It must be unitary operator. Then two back-to-back or sequential action of two infinitesimal translation operator must be equal to the single infinitesimal translation operator that produces a shift equal to the sum of these two. Okay, and inverse of an infinitesimal translation operator must be an operator that is shifting backward by the amount minus dx prime. And in the limit dx prime tends to 0, our infinitesimal translation operator must be identity operator. Now what we are going to do is, let us postulate a formula for infinitesimal translation operator, and then we will see whether this formula that we postulate is going to satisfy the properties that we have listed before. Okay, so let us define. Let this infinitesimal translation operator is equal to identity minus I, where I is square root of minus 1, k dot dx prime. Okay, where this notation is a little risky, in the sense that this vector dx prime, as I have specified before, this is an infinitesimal vector. Okay, a three-dimensional vector, because the motion is in three-dimensional, the physical space is three-dimensional. So it's a vector whose components are dxi, dyj, dzk, where dx, dy, dz are scalars. Whereas this is a Hermitian operator. Okay, this is a Hermitian operator. This k is a Hermitian operator. So we have used it's a vector operator in the sense that it has three components. Okay, where this k you can write as kxi, kyj, kz, k. Well, this I is different from this side. This is I cap. This is unit vector in the Cartesian space, three-dimensional physical space. This kx, ky, kz are all operators, Hermitian operators. These are three components of this vector operator. So it's a vector operator. So we have used the vector symbol here and here, but this is an ordinary three-dimensional vector, where this is a vector operator. Okay, so that we have to understand from the context. Understand that when I use a prime here along with a vector, it's an ordinary vector. Okay. Okay. Sometimes, sometimes it can be an eigenvalue also. But let us see. That will be clear from the context. Okay. Later we will see that. In order to show that this is a vector, maybe we can use a vector symbol further. In some books, a cap, this type of a cap is used for vector symbol, but then we will get confused between here. This is an operator for operator. Okay, this type of a cap is used for operator symbol. So if we use a cap here, then we have to use the cap for these components also. Then this cap is for unit vector, this cap will be for the operator, but that will be confusing. So I am simply using this single vector symbol. So you have to understand from the context that this is an operator, this is an ordinary vector. So this is a Hermitian operator with these three components. Each kx, ky, kz are all operators. And further, this operator has the dimension of 1 by length. This is length, right? Displacement. So this is having the dimension of 1 by length. So that this entire term is dimensionless. Okay. So we postulate this particular form for infinitesimal translation operator. Let us now verify that this formula is consistent with all the four properties that we have identified. So the first property is we want to see whether it is unitary. So let us calculate what is I dagger I. Okay. What is I dagger? I dagger will be the dagger of identity operator is identity itself. This is square I. This I will become, when you take the dagger, you have to take complex conjugate and transpose. Okay, if you use matrix form. So this will become its complex conjugate. So we get plus I here. So identity plus I, and this will become k dagger dot dx prime. This is an ordinary vector, so this doesn't change. And this is a Hermitian operator, so k dagger is same as k. Okay, we will use that a little later. So this is I dagger times I. I is I minus I k dot dx prime. Now this is equal to I times I is again identity. Then I times this, we get minus I k dot dx prime. Then this times identity, we get plus I k dagger dot dx prime. And then okay, I square will be minus, and minus of minus will be plus. Plus we have a term containing of the order of dx prime square. Okay, what I mean by this is, this term is of the order of dx prime square. Since dx prime itself is a very small quantity, infinitesimal displacement, we will neglect this term. Okay, this term we will put as 0. I mean, we will neglect that. So we are neglecting terms of the order of dx prime. So next we have to put approximate symbol. This is reduced as 1 minus I. If I take I outside, this will be k minus k dagger dot dx prime. Okay. Now, since k is a Hermitian operator, k dagger is equal to k is equal to 0. Since k dagger is equal to k, it's a Hermitian operator. So since this is 0, what you get is identity. So I dagger I is identity. In other words, I defined like this is a unitary operator. But remember that this definition is valid only up to linear terms in dx prime. We have neglected quadratic terms in dx prime. So this is an approximate definition. We can say approximate formula. Up to linear, this is true up to linear in dx prime. Okay. So this condition is satisfied. Let's go to the next property. So I dx double prime, I dx prime. Sequential action of two infinitesimal operators. Okay. So what is this? We have I identity minus I k dot dx double prime times identity minus I k dot dx prime. So this is what you get is identity. Okay, so what you have is minus I k dot dx prime. This into this is minus I k dot dx double prime. So we have two terms. We can combine that minus I k dot dx prime plus dx double prime. Okay. Correct. And then there will be a term minus of minus plus I square is minus a term of the order of dx prime into dx double prime. In other words, again you have a term which is quadratic in infinitesimal displacement. We can neglect this term. So this is approximately equal to identity minus I times k dot dx prime plus dx double prime. But look at the definition of infinitesimal translation operator. This term is same as identity, or we can say this is equal to. This term is equal to infinitesimal operator corresponding to this displacement dx prime plus dx double prime. Look at this. If we substitute for dx prime by this term dx prime plus dx double prime, this will be dx prime plus dx double prime. That is this. Okay. So this sequential action of two infinitesimal displacement operators is equal to an infinitesimal displacement operator which produces the shift of the sum of the two displacements. Okay, this proves the second property also. Let's go to the third property. What is I inverse? Inverse of an infinitesimal translation operator. Okay, now we know that this is a unitary operator, right? So if it's a unitary operator, this I dagger I is equal to identity. It means that I dagger is I inverse, right? So this I inverse is nothing but I dagger dx prime. But what is I dagger dx prime? Its dagger is identity plus I times k dagger, but k dagger is same as k. So k dot dx prime. Okay. Again, look at this definition. What is this term? This plus term 1 plus I k dot dx prime is obtained from here if you replace dx prime by minus dx prime. So this term is nothing but infinitesimal translation operator corresponding to minus dx prime. That means inverse of infinitesimal translation operator is equal to another infinitesimal translation operator that produces displacement along the opposite direction. This is the third property. This also we have proved. And the last property is that limit dx prime tends to 0 infinitesimal translation operator. This is equal to what? This is equal to, from here, from this definition, if you put dx prime tends to 0, you get identity. Okay, so if you postulate this formula for infinitesimal translation operator, this proves all the four fundamental properties of infinitesimal translation operator, namely its unitary, sequential action of two or more infinitesimal translation operator will be equivalent to another infinitesimal translation operator corresponding to the sum of all these infinitesimal displacements. And inverse of an infinitesimal translation operator is another infinitesimal translation operator that produces a displacement in the opposite direction, and the limit ds prime tends to 0, the infinitesimal translation operator is same as identity operator. So this is the fundamental result here. We have postulated a formula for infinitesimal translation operator. In classical mechanics, there is a result that momentum is the generator of infinitesimal translation. Okay, you must have studied this in your classical mechanics class. So momentum is the generator of infinitesimal translation. So we use the same idea in quantum mechanics also. So let us define. Earlier we have seen that we have postulated a form for infinitesimal translation operator, right? Identity minus I k dot dx prime, where k is a Hermitian operator having the dimension of 1 by length. Now, if you want to use the idea that from classical mechanics that momentum is the generator of infinitesimal translation, we want to express infinitesimal translation operator in terms of momentum operator. Okay. So here we have a Hermitian operator k with the dimension of 1 by length. Let us express this k in terms of linear momentum operator. So let us define this k as linear momentum. This is a three-dimensional operator. So let us consider three-dimensional momentum operator. Momentum operator, we cannot define it like this because k has the dimension of 1 by length, right? So we have to make the right hand side also having the dimension of 1 by length, and this can be achieved if I divide this with h cross, because h cross has the dimension of action. It has the dimension of momentum into length, p into x. So momentum into length is here, momentum will cancel, so k will be having the dimension of 1 by length. Therefore, this term k dot dx prime will be dimensionless. Okay, this is the idea. So let us define k as p by h cross. Then the infinitesimal displacement operator can be expressed as identity minus I times p by h cross dot dx prime. Okay, so this is the definition of infinitesimal translation operator in terms of momentum operator. So here we have adapted the idea in classical mechanics that momentum is the generator of infinitesimal translation. Here momentum operator is the generator of infinitesimal translation. It acts as the generator of infinitesimal translation operator. Here again I have specified earlier, let me repeat. This P is an operator. This is a three-dimensional operator. When you write this as pxi pyj in Cartesian coordinates, when you write this as pxi pyj pzk, understand that each of these components are operators. Px, py, pz are operators, Hermitian operators. Whereas dx prime is an ordinary three-dimensional vector. Okay, its expansion is dxi dyj dzk. Whereas this dx, dy, dz are scalars. Okay, let's understand that clearly. We have used x here. That doesn't mean that it is one-dimensional. We have used the vector symbol here. So we again, as I have earlier discussed in the case of k and dx prime, we have used only vector symbols here. Whereas this is an ordinary vector, this is a vector operator. In the same way, we have used these two symbols. This is an ordinary vector, but this is a vector operator. Okay, we are not using more symbols to distinguish between operators and vectors. You can understand that from the context. Okay, so we have defined infinitesimal translation operator in terms of linear momentum operator. We have used the idea from classical mechanics. that linear momentum is the generator of infinitesimal translation. So here linear momentum operator is the generator of infinitesimal translation operator, and we know that once you postulate this definition of infinitesimal translation operator, it satisfies all the four properties of infinitesimal translation operator.